Hello YouTube, this is Asatsu 5 and forgive the video quality, I'm filming off my iPad. I haven't done that in a while. I'm here to talk about a trip that me and my brother took to the coast here recently. It's getting close to mine and my brother's birthday, and me and my brother decided to drive to the coast for the day. Drive up there, spend a few hours in Galveston, come back to East Texas, and yeah, it was very interesting. First, let me set things up. My brother got me a rescue knife for Christmas, I think. I had it in my Jeep, and I took it out to have some work done on my Jeep so no one would be tempted to take it. And so I forgot to put it back in. Me and my brother decided to go to the coast, and we finally get to Bolivar Peninsula, which is the peninsula before you get to Galveston. I have property in Gilchrist, which is a part of Bolivar Peninsula. You got Gilchrist, then you got Crystal Beach. Crystal Beach is kind of the party beach. Gilchrist is a little bit more humble, not as fancy. And we were driving to the ferry in Bolivar Peninsula, and I started noticing that this vehicle is getting very close to us in our lane. I was going about 55, 60, I can't remember the speed limit at this particular area. And I was like, man, this vehicle is getting really close to us. And then I realized that they have stopped in the middle of the highway. So I slammed on my brakes, and I really hit them hard, and I stopped before hitting them. And the people behind me had to slam on their brakes extremely hard, so much so that, they're driving in a straight line, but their vehicle turns because they slammed on their brakes so hard. It was a big chain reaction of people almost hitting each other. And I looked over at my brother. I was like, hey, step outside and see what's going on, because it's weird that there was this vehicle just stopped in the middle of the highway. My brother went outside and looked, and it was cars as far as the eye can see. And apparently there was an accident that happened down the highway, and it was a big traffic jam. The biggest traffic jam I've ever seen in Bolivar. And me and my brother waited there for a little bit and was like, hey, how about we get on the beach, drive down the beach, and bypass this traffic? So that's what we did. We get on the beach. Beach speed limit is about 10 miles per hour. And we drive for a little bit on the beach. And then we're like, all right, let's see if we can get back on the highway. And we were able to get back on the highway. Anywho, we're driving. There was this, I think it's a Lincoln Town Car in front of us. And we're driving. There was pretty much no traffic on the road as of this point. And this Lincoln Town Car loses control and flies into oncoming traffic, which there was no oncoming traffic at the time, but went into the opposite lane. He overcorrected, spun out, and landed in a ditch full of water. And me and my brother decided to get out of our vehicle and help the guy out. It was an elderly man. He was a veteran of foreign war, and he was around 87, I think. So we decided to get out and help, which I'm going to say it's the nice thing to do, but be careful when you get out to help people on the side of the road. I've had a very close friend killed by a drunk driver because he decided to get out and help a stranded motorist, and a drunk driver hit him and killed him instantly. So you got to be careful when you do this. But we noticed that the guy had a handicap sticker, and we were like, all right, we might need to help this guy out. And we decided that the risk was worth it. And first thing that popped in my mind is like, dang it, I don't have my rescue knife in my vehicle. Which is not so much that I want to test the rescue knife out. That's not the case at all. But I didn't know if the guy was passed out with the locked vehicle. Didn't know the health conditions of this man. I might actually need to bust out a window. And all I had was my Cold Steel Tiger Karambit, or Tiger Claw Karambit, and my Spyderco Pacific Salt, which the Spyderco Pacific Salt's made out of a very soft steel, so I can't just use the point to potentially break up the glass. it probably won't work. And the Karambit, that would be difficult to break the glass out. If I needed to, I would have tried. But we were able to open up the door. The door was unlocked. The guy was perfectly fine. My brother was like, hey, do you want to stay in your vehicle? Do you want to get out? If you want to get out, I'll help you. And the guy's like, yeah. And he asked my brother to take his shoes off because he was very concerned about his kicks and his vehicle. More concerned about his vehicle and his shoes than he was himself at the moment. He was a little shaken up. He was like, hey, I could really use a beer. He said Bud Light. He's like, I need a Bud Light. And so some other people stopped with us and was attempting to help, but they eventually drove off. And he's a local at Bolivar Peninsula, and he knew some of the volunteer firefighters and stuff. And one of the volunteer firefighters came over that he knew, and we're like, hey, do we need to stay here for anything? Do y'all need us? And like, well, wait for the police officers to get here. They might take a statement from you. So that's what we did. During this time period that we're waiting for the police officers to arrive, we witnessed two things. One, two buses almost crashing into each other, and this guy had a ATV and a trailer behind his truck, and he tried to make a illegal U-turn, and he ended up getting stuck in the same creek that this elderly man got stuck in. And first, his back end was still in the highway, and his cab of his truck was in the mud, and he eventually tried working his way back and forth, and he got the whole vehicle and trailer in the mud, which is good because that way he's not blocking traffic. So it was a pretty exciting trip, and we gave our statements to the police officer, and on our way back home, we were driving down the highway, again going the speed limit, and we almost wrecked into some other people because they decided to pull out in front of us. So it was a really, really bad time to be on the road. Me and my brother, I was originally driving, but after we got finished with Galveston and whatever, actually, before we actually got into Galveston, I was like, hey, Matthew, I want you to drive. I'm tired of driving because it was just very hectic. And I was tired of driving at that moment. And so, very important, if you have a rescue knife or a vehicle exit tool or a glass breaker, make sure to keep it in your vehicle. Because that's where you're going to need it. You're not going to need a rescue knife or a glass breaker, EDCing it, going to the grocery store or around the house. You're going to need it on the road. And I made sure when I got home to put that rescue knife back in my vehicle, back where on the visor, for just in case we witness another accident. This is probably the third accident since I started driving that I've witnessed that I wasn't involved in. I've been involved in 2 accidents, none of which were my fault. I've witnessed someone's front hood flipping up and busting the window out, and of course they couldn't see. I saw a red car and I think a truck hit each other. And I can't remember the next one specifically, but I know I've witnessed at least 3 of them without me actually being involved. Good idea. I mean, I could have cut the guy's seatbelt with my Pacific Salt or my Tiger Claw Karambit, but getting through that window would have been tricky. And by the way, a little tip on busting out a window. I haven't tried this. This is just what I've been told, and I've witnessed this like on video form. But let's pretend that this is the window. You want to hit in this corner right here, these corners at the bottom, and that will make the glass easier to break. I've seen a video of a news reporter talking about how easy it is to bash and grab someone's vehicle, and he was using a hammer and hitting directly in the center of the the driver's side window. He was hitting the center of it, and he was bashing it as hard as he can with that hammer, and he couldn't break it. And then I saw a separate video talking about hitting in the corners right here, and the way the glass is made, the whole glass will shatter if you do that. Maybe I'll test it out sometime when I go to a junkyard, if I ever get to do that. But if you have a less than optimal tool to bust out a window, I recommend hitting this corner area right here on either side. Yeah, that was our trip. You know, go figure, the one time you might need a tool is the time that you don't have it. Fortunately, I didn't need it, but it came very close. So that's it. I hope y'all enjoyed this video, or maybe not enjoyed it, but learned something from it. I'm Asatsu5, and I'm out.